now. The Senate Judiciary Committee will come to order. This is an historic opportunity to elect 8 people to the Court of Appeals of Virginia. Anybody who is, any of the members of the committee might want to leave, please sign a proxy. The clerk will call the roll.
Senator Sasslaw.
Here.
Senator Norment. Senator Lucas.
Here.
Senator Obenshain. Senator McDougall. Senator Stewart. Senator Stanley. Senator Deeds.
Here.
Senator Peterson.
Here.
Senator Surville.
Here.
Senator McClellan.
Here.
Senator Boysko.
Here.
Senator Morrissey.
Here.
Senator Peake.
Here.
Senator Edwards.
Here.
Mr. Chair, you have a quorum.
Okay, good. Thank you very much. Again, as I say, this is an historic opportunity to elect 8 people to the Court of Appeals of Virginia. We will do the Court of Appeals first, then we do 2 members to the Judicial Inquiry and Review Commission, and then we'll have some other judges at the local level. I would ask anybody who is a candidate for a judgeship, go outside if you don't mind. I think you're welcome to stay here, Senator. If any candidates are here, I'd ask go outside, please. So, okay, at this point, I will call the first candidate, who is Dominic A. Callens. We're going to do this alphabetically. Madam Callens, Dominic A. Callens.
Yes, sir.
Could you tell us a little bit about yourself, where do you live, and the kind of practice you have?
Certainly. So I live presently in Front Royal, Virginia. I graduated from high school in Newport News in the Tidewater area. I spent a few years in Richmond, where I clerked for the Henrico Circuit Court as well as on the Court of Appeals before practicing in Fairfax, where I primarily practiced family law, but also civil work, including plaintiff's work and some criminal defense. For the last 4 or 5 years, I've been in Loudoun County in Leesburg, Virginia.
Okay. Now, you clerked for a classmate of mine in law school, the Honorable James W. Benton, Jr. in the Court of Appeals, Virginia. Is that right?
I did.
And he speaks very highly of you.
Thank you.
And if you anything like him, you'll make an outstanding Court of Appeals judge.
I hope so. Thank you.
Then I'll open it up to other members of the committee to ask questions. Yes, Senator Norman.
Thank you very much. Ma'am, I'm looking over your questionnaire, and I appreciate your willingness to offer yourself on that. Have you ever been considered for a judgeship prior to this judgeship?
I have never applied for a judgeship prior to this. Yes.
And do you have a position or any thoughts on what the Court of Appeals would refer to as procedural default?
Yes, sir. I believe that I should be open to considering the merits behind the case. There is a such thing as the ends of justice exception, and certainly that might overcome what would be considered a procedural default pursuant to the rules of court.
And Mr. Chairman, please.
Yes, Senator Norman.
I noticed on reviewing your questionnaire that about 95% of your practice appears to be in the domestic relations arena, and you're a tougher lady than I am to be able to do that. But what has been your experience in conducting appeals either to the Court of Appeals or to the Virginia Supreme Court?
So I've had experience drafting appellate briefs for both the Court of Appeals and the Supreme Court, and then I have what I think is probably the most relevant experience, and that is clerking on the Court of Appeals, where I assisted the sitting judge in drafting opinions and reviewing cases for merit.
Mr. Chairman, I appreciate tracking.
Senator Norman.
Excuse me, sir.
Senator Norman, go ahead.
I appreciate you tracking it. My question perhaps needs to be a little more defined, and that is, approximately how many appeals have you personally handled where you have authored and or argued before the Court of Appeals and the Supreme Court of Virginia?
So I believe that I have, and it was a few years ago, but I have personally authored 2 briefs on the Court of Appeals and 1 to 2 on the Supreme Court.
Thank you for your courtesies.
Thank you.
Now, you went to kind of a law school somewhere down in Williamsburg named William and Mary?
I did.
Yeah, do you know anybody that teaches there?
I do.
Senator Norman?
Well, Professor Douglas, for sure, Professor Norman.
You were notes editor of the William and Mary Bill of Rights Journal, right?
Yes.
Okay. Anybody else have any questions?
Mr. Chairman,
Yeah, Senator Obenchain.
Ms. Callens, apparently I represent you.
Yes, sir, you do.
How long have you lived in Front Royal?
I've lived there for 10 years.
Okay. And you practice in Front Royal
I do.
and have an office in Front Royal?
I don't have an office in Front Royal. I have one in Winchester.
Okay. And just to get, and I apologize, I've never read any of this material. It was made available about 3 minutes ago, your background and your questionnaire responses. So I'm sure that some of this information is reflected in there. But Senator Norman asked about your appellate experience. Have you ever argued in the Supreme Court or the Court of Appeals?
I have not done an oral argument.
Okay. And were you sole counsel on those briefs?
I was on 2 of them, yes, sir.
So I take it that the petitions were denied, so you didn't have an opportunity to argue?
The court declined to hear argument.
I understand. So this year, the General Assembly has expanded the jurisdiction of the Court of Appeals. What qualifications do you bring to assist the court in meeting the challenges of the expanded jurisdiction?
Well, certainly in one area, I will bring a lot of experience, and that is as a trial attorney for as a domestic relations trial attorney. In addition, I have actually,
Doesn't the Court of Appeals already handle domestic? Aren't they experts already in handling domestic cases? I guess my question is a little different.
Yes,
The
sir.
expanded areas of jurisdiction, what do you bring to the court that will assist you in helping the court make this transition to its expanded jurisdiction?
So I, in addition to my domestic relations experience, I also have background in civil work. So I've actually done plaintiff's work, including being first chair in a jury trial, in a few jury trials. So considering the fact that the court is now going to be expanded to consider appeals from every practice area, I will bring that experience to the table uniquely.
And so how many jury trials have you had involving personal injury cases?
I have actually been first chair on 2 jury trials.
And when were they?
And they were in, I don't remember the exact year, but it would be in the 2009, 2010 time frame.
Okay.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, is there a motion?
I move she be qualified as a judge.
Is there a second? All in favor of the motion to certify
Mr. Chair.
Senator Obenchain?
Well, I mean, it's certainly the court's, or the chair's prerogative, I suppose, but we do these, we're going to do them individually.
Do them individually, that's right. Yeah. We're doing it individually as the person is here, okay? All right, motion's been made to certify Dominic Callens as qualified to serve on the Court of Appeals, Virginia. All in favor of the motion, say aye. Aye. All opposed, no. Motion carries. Okay. With 1 abstention. Okay. Thank you very much, and congratulations to you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, the next person we will call is Doris E. Henderson Causey, Esquire. Darcy E. Causey, next person. Doris Causey, step right up.
Good
Thank you-
morning.
Thank you for giving your time and your interest in this court. Would you please tell us a little bit about yourself, your educational background, and the fact you have been president of the Virginia State Bar?
Yes, sir.
Is that correct? Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
My name is Doris Henderson Causey. I'm from Oxford, Mississippi. I moved to Virginia about 18 years ago. I was born and raised there in Oxford, Mississippi. Went to school there at the University of Mississippi. Received my Master's of Education. Well, in Ole Miss, I majored in mathematics and political science. And of course, I came from a background of educators. So they said, well, what are you going to do with I said, I wanted to be a lawyer, the first one in my family. And they said, well, what are you going to do with that? And I said, well, I want to go to law school. So I had to, they were like, well, just go ahead and get education. So I went to Tennessee State University to receive my Master's of Education and went on to Thurgood Marshall School of Law for law school and married. And my husband, he works here, so he brought me here. And I was the president of Virginia State Bar. I worked with the bar for over 10 years, and I've served as the first Virginian to be on the National Conference of Bar Presidents, and we have another Virginian that has taken my place. My term just ended on the Executive Council that will be there now, and that's Kevin Martingale, and I really have enjoyed my service to the public, and I currently work at Central Virginia Legal Aid Society, where I represent indigent clients, and I also have worked here very diligently with some of my colleagues, and I'm very happy to be here this morning, and thank you for having me.
Thank you for being here. Anybody else have any further questions?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, Senator Norman.
Good morning, and thank you very much for offering yourself. What do you focus on anything in particular within legal aid?
Sir, at Legal Aid, I do sort of kind of sometimes. Well, at Legal Aid, you really don't get to focus that often. It's what comes through the door and what's the biggest issue that comes through the door. Right now, as everyone here knows, is housing. So it's a big push for housing, and everybody's coming in with that problem, so you work with housing. But I do domestic relations. That's really a big focus of my practice. Also, General District Court, any civil cases that may come through. We have new attorneys, and those new attorneys, we try to do most of the new work, housing in more focused areas. But at Legal Aid, when you are there like I've been, you do some of everything. You advise in bankruptcy, you do foreclosures, tax sales, you name it, whatever comes through the door, that's your client, and we get cases based on your seniority too. So with me, since I've been there for a while, and I do know how to practice in most courts throughout the state, so that's what you do. And we serve 5 cities and 15 counties, and so when one attorney can't make it in one of the counties, I have to go.
Okay. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, ma'am.
Any further
Thank you
questions?
so much.
Mr. Sheriff.
Yeah, Senator Morrissey.
Thank you. Good morning, Ms. Causey.
Good morning, Senator Morrissey.
Thank you for holding yourself out for a position on the Court of Appeals. And you and I have had a chance to speak probably face-to-face for probably a total of over 3 hours. So I thank you for that.
Thank you.
What years were you president of the Virginia State Bar?
2017 to 2018?
And prior to that, you had experience with the Virginia State Bar, did you not?
Yes, sir.
On the disciplinary committee?
No, sir. I just joined the disciplinary committee 2019.
So after your term,
2018.
I'm sorry, after your term as president, you joined the committee?
Yes, sir.
Then what other offices or positions did you hold with the Virginia State Bar?
Well, I first started out as a representative from the 13th District here in Richmond, and you serve on Bar Council. Then after serving on that for a while, I did the Client Protection Fund Board. That's where all lawyers give a certain amount of money, $25 now, I think it's now to $5, to a fund that helps to protect the public from those lawyers that have been disbarred or people have taken their money. So I've served on the Client Protection Fund Board. I served on Budget and Finance. I served on Nominating Committee. I've served Executive Committee after I served so long in the actual, you move up in the ranks. So I actually served on the Executive Committee for the presidents that came before me. After that, Better Annual Meeting Committee, but some of the smaller committees, Budget and Finance, Client Protection Fund Board, those were the biggest committees that I served on before going on.
During our meeting, we spoke extensively about what many of the flaws or defalcations in the Virginia State Bar, particularly the appointment of people to positions on the disciplinary board. I think we probably spoke for over an hour about that. Can you tell the panel what, if anything, you did when you saw these problems and these errors to correct it or try to prevent it happening to another lawyer?
When I saw things that weren't correct or things that I didn't think were right, I collaborated with my colleagues that were there at the bar. I talked about them. I went to bat for some people that I knew really deserved to be involved. Also, we have a bar sheet, meaning that they can print out a sheet right now and give it to you of everything I've ever participated in the bar, as far as in what years I did that. So when I saw people that had long bar sheets, I would say, let's give this person who doesn't have anything as a bar record, let's give them a chance. But sometimes I was outvoted, I was outnumbered, but I did work very hard to help those things, especially the disciplinary committee. Lots of committees at that time, when you sit around the table, I was the only minority there. I made sure that the bar saw that and thought about it and say, hey, we need more diverse committees that look like the makeup of the bar. I nominated more people to work in different areas. When I was in the 13th district, I made sure that when we had people to serve on discipline, I asked that they say, you went out and you said, hey, why don't you give this a chance? Why don't you think about this? So definitely tried to make sure that the bar had more people involved than the same people and did things of that nature.
Mr. Chairman, if I may
Senator Norman, yes.
interrupt you, please.
Senator Norman,
and
go ahead.
excuse me, Senator Marcy. I think this line of question is inappropriate to confront this judicial candidate with, because I think it has something of a personal overtone to it. And she's being considered for the Court of Appeals. She's got an extraordinary record of service to the bar. And I just think this line of question is inappropriate.
Let me ask you a couple. You graduated from University of Virginia, got a bachelor's degree. I'm sorry, University of Mississippi. And then you did Tennessee, you got a Master of Education?
Yes, sir.
From Tennessee State University. And then you graduated in Houston from Thurgood Marshall School of Law at Texas Southern University in 2002. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, you have a lot of experience.
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Any further questions?
Ms. Causey, how many years have you been with the legal aid?
Over 13 years, sir.
And you cover a myriad of matters with legal aid?
Yes, sir. Poverty law.
And some of those matters are civil in nature, and some of them have a criminal overtone to it?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Any further questions? Okay, is there a motion?
I move that this candidate be certified as a judge.
Any discussion? All in favor of the motion to certify Ms. Causey as a qualified for the Court of Appeals, Virginia, vote aye. Aye. All opposed, no. Motion carries.
Thank you so
Thank you
very much for having me
much.
today.
Okay.
Thank you.
Now, Vernita Cheney, next candidate. Yeah, that's.
Good morning.
Okay, Ms. Cheney, welcome. Thank you so very much. Tell us a little bit about yourself, the kind of practice you have, and your educational background.
Well, first, good morning, Senator Edwards and the Judiciary Committee. Thank you, distinguished members, for having me here. My name is Vernita Cheney. I'm a criminal defense attorney. I am originally from Richmond, Virginia. I practice in Alexandria, and I have family from Danville, Virginia. So I like to say that I am a daughter of all over the Commonwealth, statewide. I'm also a I'm also a graduate of the University of Virginia for my undergraduate degree, and I have an MBA from Virginia Commonwealth University. I also have a Juris Doctorate law degree from Howard University in Washington, D.C. It was at all of these places where I learned a lot about taking care of our community and our society, and that's why I started to do work in public defense. I was a public defender and a capital defender for a number of years before I went into private practice. I've had an opportunity to represent great people and learn from so many wonderful colleagues and judges, and I hope to take all of that experience with me on the bench.
How has having an MBA, which is unusual for lawyers, helped you as a lawyer?
Well, I think we learn in business school that it's really important to have data to come to our conclusions. And it's similar to how we practice law. You have to have the law to make the correct decisions. And so I feel like my training in the business field and being in business school and having an MBA has helped in that way. I also think it's also helped me in very complex cases. I do complex criminal litigation where I deal with fraud and embezzlement and all kinds of complex issues, and having an MBA has certainly helped me in that direction.
Okay. Any further questions from the members of the committee? Yeah, Senator Morrissey.
Good morning, Ms. Cheney.
Good morning, Senator Morrissey.
I was particularly intrigued that you went and got your master's in law. You got that here at VCU, is that correct?
I received my MBA at VCU, and then I went to Howard Law School for my Juris Doctorate.
Right. Very quickly, how does having gotten that MBA help you in your current practice, and how do you see it helping you on the Court of Appeals?
Well, in my current practice, as I stated, is very complex criminal defense litigation. I am dealing with large financial loss. I'm dealing with calculations, dealing with forfeiture, dealing with assets. And so these are all things that I learned when I was in business school. And obviously, I apply to law where it relates in the legal field, and I think that helps me as well, too. And as I said before, in business school, it's all about having the data, right? We need that, and it's very similar to what we do in the law. We don't make decisions on our own. We have to have the precedent, and we have to have the law behind us when we make those decisions. And I think I had wonderful training when I was in business school to help me when I went to law school, and now help me when I become a judge.
Mr. Chair, I want to also
Any
note
further
that this
questions? Yeah,
candidate,
Senator Morrissey.
thank you. This candidate, between working as a senior public defender, was also working as a assistant capital defender, and that organization is now out of work. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you for noting that, Senator Morrissey. I think we're all happy that maybe that's out of work.
Ms. Cheney,
Senator Deeds.
looking at your questionnaire, I see you're the owner of Greater Homes LLC, a residential property management company in Henrico County. You own rental units, or do you manage?
I own a rental unit, sir.
Just one unit?
Yes, sir, one unit.
Okay, thank you, ma'am.
Okay. Any further questions?
Mr. Chair,
Yeah, Senator Deeds.
I move that we certify this candidate for the judgeship.
It's been moved and seconded to certify Bernita Rochelle Cheney is qualified to serve on the Court of Appeals of Virginia. Any further discussion? All in favor of the motion, say aye. Aye. All opposed, no. Congratulations.
Thank you, Chairman, and thank you, distinguished members of Judiciary Committee. I appreciate the support and the consideration, and I look forward to serving
You're gonna be a
on the
great
Court of
judge.
Appeals. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you.
Okay, move on to Frank K. Friedman, Esquire. Again, we're doing this alphabetically. Hey, Frank, step right up.
Thank you.
Tell us a little bit about yourself. I know you, Frank, for a long time. Your educational background, your practice area, and something about yourself. Thank you.
Well, thank you. It's an honor to be here, and I appreciate it. I am an appellate lawyer from Roanoke. I've been practicing there 36 years. 95% of what I do is appellate, and I really enjoy appellate law. I think it's challenging, interesting. All the cases are varied, and it's a great job to have. And,
What's your educational background? Where'd you go to college?
I did go to Harvard.
Where?
And I went to Vanderbilt for law school, which wound up with me being a doormat in SEC football for many years. But aside from that, I enjoyed it very much.
Tell us about your practice as an appellate lawyer. What kind of work have you done?
Well, my practice is appellate. It's 95% appellate. All kinds of cases, civil, really everything but bankruptcy, which is sort of a whole different language, and I don't know that language. So, criminal, I've done less, but I have enjoyed the criminal work that I've done. A lot of it has been court-appointed and pro bono type cases, but I'm proud of some of them.
What kind of pro bono work have you done, for example? I understand you've done a lot of pro bono work.
Well, the appellate cases, some of them, I guess I break it into, court-appointed appellate cases and amicus work. The court-appointed cases, some of them, Workman was more pro bono than court-appointed. Workman is one of the leading Brady cases in Virginia. The court did appoint me to the Rawls case, which was a big instruction case where an instruction was given so that Mr. Rawls might get 40 years when the statute required only 20 years. And when he only got 20 years, the Commonwealth said no harm, no foul. But we said that the whole sentencing was thrown off, and the court agreed because they expanded the amount of time he could get.
That's a famous case, isn't it? The Workman case?
I'm sorry?
It's a famous case in Virginia.
The Workman one is a pretty big Brady win. I worked on a number of criminal cases that did not win all of them. One of the ones, my writing sample that I submitted, and I was really disappointed, lost 7-0 after losing 3-0 in the Court of Appeals in the Payne case, which is a case where we tried to get a cross-racial identification instruction, and it was just shut down, even though...
Mr. Chair.
Yes, Senator.
Mr. Friedman, let me get to the point. One of the reasons you're standing here is because you have a practice experience on business issues, civil issues, which of course is an expansion of the Court of Appeals jurisdiction. Previously, it didn't handle any commercial issues. And for people like my practice representing businesses, we're going to be in front of this court for the first time. Can you talk about how your experience is going to help out that court on small business issues?
Well, I think that is another reason that expanding the people on the court to civil practitioners is very important. Obviously, the people who are on that court were selected to be on the court because of their criminal background. So it is important to have people with a civil background, and I do. I have, again, all kinds of civil cases, including business cases. And I think it's important that we recognize, I do think there's going to be an explosion of appeals, and I think that's good. I think that's a plus. I think it's, the beauty of what the legislation is doing, because a lot of people feel like they haven't had a chance to appeal. So That's, obviously criminal defendants are going to bring their appeals of right, but I think that everyone's going to be surprised how many civil people are going to bring them too, because the number of civil appeals has been dwindling, and the ones that are being granted have been on kind of esoteric big-ticket items. But there are going to be a lot of less esoteric items that still haven't been decided that are going to need to be decided.
Can I do one follow-up question, Mr.
Senator
Chair?
Peterson.
One of the areas of my practice is eminent domain, representing people whose property is taken by the government and whether or not it's for a public purpose and what the just compensation is. Again, this will be now be coming to the Court of Appeals for the first time. Previously, it had always gone to the Supreme Court. Again, just generally, what's your view on property rights? What's your view on Article 1, Section 11? What's your view on the right of people to be compensated if they lose land?
Well, I think it's pretty well established. If the government takes your property, you are entitled to be compensated. Establishing the amount is often the hard part. But the government can't take your property and not compensate you.
Senator Morsi.
If Senator Peterson was finished. Mr. Friedman, how many times have you argued in the appellate level, either the Court of Appeals or the Supreme Court of Commonwealth?
It's a big number. I don't know the exact number. It's hard to say because a lot of the cases aren't necessarily reported if you want to count petitions and whatnot. But probably, to be honest, more times in the Supreme Court than the Court of Appeals. But that's because of the jurisdiction. And now that that's changing, more people will be arguing civil cases in the Court of Appeals.
Is your practice exclusively appellate litigation?
Again, there's about a 5% administrative bar jerk type cases, and occasionally it's suddenly become in vogue. I don't know if this counts as appellate work. Well, I count it as appellate work, but trial counsel more often now is asking appellate counsel to sit in at trials to catch appellate issues in big cases. So I've done a little of that recently.
Mr. Chair, one final
Senator
comment.
Morsi.
Mr. Chairman, just a comment. Sometimes in life, people present themselves in such an understated way that they do themselves not as much justice as they should. Let's be clear. This particular gentleman has argued more cases in the appellate court and the Supreme Court than almost any litigator that I know. Not only his expertise, but his reputation in the appellate courts is beyond measure. And when Mr. Friedman says in a very understated way, I enjoy appellate work, it reminds me of Tom Brady saying, I've played a little football in the NFL. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
Well said. Any
Thank
other
you very
questions?
much.
Mr. Chairman.
Senator
Peak.
Senator Peake.
In my hometown of Roanoke, and I first started practicing law there, Mr. Friedman's reputation had already started, and as Senator Morsi just said, it is unparalleled in the Commonwealth. So I congratulate you on your upcoming position. I know you will do well and will uphold the honor of the Star City.
Thank you very much.
Senator Stanley.
Mr. Chairman, if I may say, first, if you're elected to the Court of Appeals, where is everybody who has a law practice who doesn't want to take something to the appellate court? Where are we going to go if you're gone?
Well, I have a list of
You have a
very
list?
good younger attorneys. Roanoke is
Can you
actually.
provide that?
What did you say about Roanoke?
Roanoke has a very impressive young appellate bar, and I think the appellate bar is going to, it's hard to break into the appellate bar the way things are now. As a young person, that's actually the main thing that they ask me is how do you do it? And again, I think this legislation is going to change that. I think there are going to be a lot of appeals, and with a lot of appeals, there's going to be a lot of opportunity for people to get experience, and that's the problem. People don't want to hire someone that's never argued anything, but once you've argued 5 or 6, they will hire you, and then you get to argue 20 or 30 or more. So,
Okay, any further questions?
Mr. Chairman. if I
Yeah,
may
Senator
just make a
Stanley.
statement. I do want to thank you for everything that you've done as an appellate lawyer for a lot of the younger people at the bars, not just in Roanoke, but also Franklin County, Bedford, and the surrounding areas in the valley, and also in Southside Virginia. We lose a good appellate lawyer, but we gain a great appellate judge. And as I look through this list, you are the superstar among this list, in my humble opinion. So I thank you for your good work, not good work, great work. You will be missed on the appellate bar, but I think you are well suited for where you're going. And so I appreciate the time that we've spent together on cases. So I think you guys really hit a home run on this one. I'm going to reserve statements on any others, but I think you got this one right. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr.
Is there a motion,
I
Senator?
move that we certify this candidate.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to certify Tom Brady, Frank Friedman is qualified for the Court of Appeals, Virginia. All in favor of the motion, say aye. Aye. All opposed, no. Congratulations, Frank.
thank you all very much.
Okay, the next would be the Honorable Junius P. Fulton III. Judge Fulton, thanks for coming.
Good morning.
And, we appreciate your being here. You are currently a judge in Norfolk, is that right?
Circuit Court, yes, sir.
And tell us a little bit about your educational background and also your judgeship background.
Oh, I'm a graduate of public school system in Norfolk and Virginia Beach. Then I went to the University of Virginia, graduated from there in 1981. Then I spent a year working, and then I went to law school at College of William and Mary Marshall Webb School of Law. Shortly after that, I went back home to Norfolk. I wanted to be a prosecutor, and I started working in the Norfolk County Attorney's Office. I did that for 3 years before I went in private practice for 7 years. While in private practice, I did civil work, a lot of criminal defense work, real estate closings, bankruptcies, consumer bankruptcy type cases, and some civil litigation. In 1996, I was appointed to the bench by Governor Allen because there was a vacancy in Norfolk at the time and the General Assembly was not in session. Shortly after that, I went up for election before this body and subsequently been reelected in 2005 and 2013 and this past 2020. During my time as a circuit court judge, I had the privilege of being the judge who started and implemented and carried out the drug court docket in the city of Norfolk. So I did that for 20 years. I claim the distinction of being the longest serving drug court judge in Virginia. I also had an opportunity to serve on the bench book committee, which I served with a number of other distinguished judges, such as former Justice Roush, Justice Millett, Justice Chafin, and some other judges, and we create the bench book for circuit court judges in the city, in the Commonwealth of Virginia. During that time with the bench book committee, we work in a collaborative way, which is similar to the type of work that I hope to be doing with the Court of Appeals.
Okay, thank you. Any further questions? Yes, Senator Norman, who teaches at William and Mary Law School.
Mr. Chairman, Judge Fulton is an extraordinary jurist and has given us...
Speak so we can hear you.
This judge is an extraordinary judge and has given us many years of service and certainly has distinguished himself in the city of Norfolk, and I just appreciate him offering himself for the Court of Appeals.
Thank you, Senator Norman.
Any further questions? Is there a motion? Been moved and seconded to certify Judge Fulton as a qualified for the Court of Appeals, Virginia. All in favor of the motion, say aye. Aye. All opposed, no. Congratulations, Judge. The motion carries.
Thank you very much.
Thank
Thank you
you
for the
so very
confidence you instilled in me.
Thank you. Okay, the next is Lisa Lorish from Charlottesville. But she's highly qualified by everybody else.
I don't care about that.
Oh, okay. Okay. No, doesn't she exceptionally well qualified? Yeah. Oh, she didn't go with him, right? She didn't go. No, she didn't. Okay. Lisa Lorish, Lisa Marie Lorish, tell us a little about yourself, your educational background, and what you're doing now.
Great. Well, good morning, everybody, and thank you so much for the opportunity to be here today. My name is Lisa Lorish. I'm currently practicing as a federal public defender in Charlottesville, Virginia. Prior to that, I worked for McGuire Woods in commercial and civil litigation, also based in Charlottesville. And going back a bit further, I practiced with Sullivan and Cromwell for a few years in London and Washington, D.C. Before all that, I started out my education at Princeton University and then was lucky enough to attend the University of Virginia School of Law.
Good for you. You're well educated. You're also in law review, right?
I was on the law review, yes.
And you're a member of the Raven Society.
Yes, thank you.
Is that an honor society or what?
It was. I was elected to be a member of the Raven Society when I was in law school.
Very few law students are elected to the Raven Society, right?
That is my understanding.
Okay. So tell us how you evolved into being a public defender in Charlottesville after being with Sullivan and Cromwell in Washington, D.C. and London, is that right? Which is a major law firm.
That's correct. Well, thank you for the question, Senator. I wanted to transition to public service, and an opportunity came open with the Federal Public Defender's Office, and I thought it would be a good opportunity to develop my skills as an advocate in a new and different way.
You come highly recommended by every federal prosecutor in the Western District of Virginia that I've talked to. Any questions of this
Mr. Chair,
candidate?
and now your work is primarily appellate?
That is correct. So in the last 5 years, I've shifted my practice towards appellate and post-conviction work. So I still like to have a trial practice to stay grounded in what's happening in the courts every day, but I largely do appellate and post-conviction work.
And so how many cases have you argued in the Fourth Circuit?
I've argued 13 cases in the Fourth Circuit.
Okay, and have you written more briefs or other people have argued?
I've written a lot of other briefs that have been decided in cases both for and against me that did not involve argument.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Yes.
Yeah, Senator Morsi.
Just one question, Mr. Chair. Ms. Lorish, we see a lot of people that go, their trajectory may be from a Sullivan and Cromwell or McGuire Woods, or from the public defender's office to those larger law firms. You went the other way, and you mentioned a moment ago you had a desire to be in public service. Can you just expand on that a bit? Because I rarely, if ever, see somebody do what you've done and have gone from the large law firms, worldwide law firms, to a public defender, and that intrigues me. What was the impetus for you doing that?
Thank you for the question, Senator. I was very lucky to have a lot of assistance when I was transitioning from growing up on a farm in Lancaster, Pennsylvania, and received a lot of financial aid to be able to attend Princeton. And I've always felt a desire to be able to give back to others in the way that I was so lucky to receive.
All right, thank you very much.
Any further questions?
Mr. Chair, I move we certify this candidate.
It's been moved and seconded that we certify Lisa Lorish to the Court of Appeals as qualified for the Court of Appeals of Virginia. All in favor of the motion, say aye. Aye. All opposed, no. Motion carries. Congratulations. You're going to make a great judge.
Thank you all very much.
Yeah, thank you very much.
And Mr. Chair,
Yes, Senator Peterson.
could I just raise a point of order? Mr. Chair, if people could try and restrict the sidebar, this is an important moment in people's lives, and let's try and pay attention to what they're saying.
Yes, Senator Searle.
Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, Senator Norman.
To my dear friend, Senator, I would say The sidebars may pertain to the individual candidates where the questions are rather delicate and perhaps we'd like to discuss it.
Okay.
I'm not sure you want some of them brought up in public at this point.
Okay, now we move on to the final candidate. Let me see. Here we, no, I'm not final. The Honorable Judge Daniel E. Ortiz. Okay, thank you, Judge Ortiz. Give us a little bit about your background, educational, and who you clerked for when you worked for the Court of Appeals. Which judge did you clerk for in the circuit court?
Sure,
Yeah.
sure. Well, thank you all for having me. My name is Dan Ortiz. I sit as a circuit court judge in Fairfax County. I've done so for the last 6.5 years. Prior to that, I was a substitute judge in the GDC and General District Courts. Prior to that, I worked at a firm called Blankenship and Keith in Fairfax County. I clerked for Lang Keith, the circuit court judge in Fairfax for 2 years prior to that. I went to George Washington University for law school and University of Virginia for undergrad. And that's sort of my quick sort of resume experience. I don't know how much more you want me to elaborate on that.
Yeah, how was Lang Keith because he was a classmate of mine in law school.
All right. He's doing real well.
Tell him how for me.
It was a lot of fun to work for.
Yeah.
Kept me on my toes every day. It reminded me there's a lot of good things in those black and gold books he would tell me over and over again. So,
Okay, any further questions?
Well, if nobody's going to ask me one, then I will, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, go ahead. Senator Peake.
I understand you're from Fairfax.
yes, sir.
As well as Senator Peterson.
Yes, sir.
Did he require you to wear the bow tie, or do you normally wear a bow tie?
I normally wear a bow tie. He and I have.
I'm following him.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, any further questions? Yeah, Senator.
Certify this candidate.
We do have, there's a person that would like to speak. He's already sent us a written document, and that person, would you like 1 minute to speak? Good. I'll give you 2 minutes max, okay? Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
And what's state your name?
Yolanda Bell. I'm sorry, I'll speak as loud as I can, but I can't. I'm immunocompromised, so I can't.
Yeah, go ahead. You're okay with the mask, as long as we
Okay.
can hear you.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman and committee members. I ask you to please vote against the appointment of Judge Daniel Ortiz to the Court of Appeals. Judge Ortiz has not demonstrated the needed level of integrity and routinely ignores his conflict of interests. Yes, the guardianship system in Virginia is flawed, as evidenced by hospitals like VCU and Inova using guardianships to remove Medicare and Medicaid patients, written about in the award-winning article in the Richmond Times Unguarded, the 3-part series. But Judge Ortiz has personally made decisions and taken action on those decisions to help his former employer, Inova. In at least one instance where another ad litem had been appointed for an Inova case, Judge Ortiz vacated that order. He's personally made decisions that benefited his employer. Judge Ortiz, prior to his appointment to the circuit court, Judge Ortiz worked for Inova Health Systems as their outside counsel for guardianships to remove Medicaid and Medicaid patients from that hospital. In a severe conflict of interest, he handles the appointment of all guardian ad litems for every single case, Inova, through the court. He is the first to get his hands on each of the cases in well over 100 cases in the last few years, because Inova brings all of their cases through calendar control versus regular filing. Judge Ortiz always appoints the same 2 guardian ad litems. There are 96 qualified guardian ad litems in Fairfax County, yet Judge Ortiz always appoints the same 2 guardian ad litems. There are 80 qualified ad litems in Alexandria. And again, it's still always the same 2, Gary Jeter and Sabin Johnston. In a couple of rare instances, it's been Kerry Cuccinelli. The odds of all Inova's cases getting the same 2 individuals is astronomical, approximately 1.5%. A seat on the Court of Appeals is a very important position and requires the utmost integrity, especially as it sets precedent and it's a stone's throw away from the Supreme Court. I've sent copies of the orders of Judge Ortiz, appointing the same two gals, and the vacating order to each and every one on the Courts of Justice Committee.
Okay, thank you very much. You've had 2 minutes.
Thank you for
and
allowing me to
We also
speak.
have your written document.
Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much. Senator Peterson?
If I might respond, and we take these citizen comments seriously, and this is an issue that was raised, and I've discussed with Judge Ortiz, and I've basically run down the research myself. The way the guardian ad litem system works in Fairfax is that the guardian ad litems are pre-selected for cases like this by the chief judge, who's Bruce White. And the actual form order that's entered is a form order. And in this case, Judge Ortiz would have been filling out a form order from someone pre-selected by Judge Bruce White. Judge Ortiz is not a doctor. He never worked for Inova. His law firm represented Inova, and I understand that. But the bottom line is, those guardian ad litem orders were not something that was controversial. Those are very competent attorneys. I know Sabin Johnson. I know Mr. Jeter. And so their representation as a guardian ad litem did not compromise anybody's rights. But I do want you to know that I did read your complaint, and we did run down the research on it. So thank you.
Okay. Judge Ortiz, would you like to, you don't have to respond, but if you wish, you're welcome to. I think Senator Peterson's responded pretty well for you.
I'll defer to him.
Okay. Any further questions of Judge Ortiz? It's been moved and seconded that Judge Daniel E. Ortiz be qualified for the Court of Appeals of Virginia. All in favor of the motion, say aye. Aye. All opposed, no. Motion carries. Congratulations, Judge. I know you'll be a great judge in the Court of Appeals.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. Okay, the final judge for the Court of Appeals is Stuart A. Raphael from Arlington. Okay, Mr. Raphael.
Good morning.
Give us a little bit of your background, your educational background, and your practice experience. And we've seen you before, and you have a great reputation. But tell us a little bit about yourself.
Thank you, Senator Edwards. I went to Harvard undergrad, went straight through to UVA Law School, met my wife there. We moved to Arlington, where we've lived ever since. I started with Hunton in 1989 and have been with the firm except for the 4-year stint I did as Solicitor General, which up until now was the best job of my life. And I really miss public service, and I'm really eager to get back to it.
Which years were you as Solicitor General of Virginia?
Yes, from January 2014 until September of 2017.
And what are some of the cases you handled?
Well, the first case was the same-sex marriage case, where we confessed error that Virginia's constitutional ban on same-sex marriage violated the Constitution of the United States. We obtained the first preliminary injunction against the president's travel ban. That was at the end of my term there. Really fascinating cases. I had one argument in the U.S. Supreme Court in 2016 in the congressional redistricting case. I used to joke that it was like drinking from a fire hose, but it tasted really good. And, it was one of those jobs where I almost 90% of the time I would wake up at 5 a.m. I couldn't wait to get to work, and it was just a wonderful experience.
How many cases have you argued, if you can remember, in the Virginia Supreme Court?
It's probably, if you count writ panel arguments, it's probably over 20.
Okay, all right. Any further questions of this distinguished candidate? Yeah, Senator Marcy.
Good morning.
Good morning.
And thank you for presenting yourself. What is going to be your biggest challenge going on to the Court of Appeals, having been for lack of a more artful expression, a player litigating in the Fourth Circuit and the Supreme Court, and now versus being somebody who was listening to that argument and asking, decisive questions?
The thing I love about the law is every case is like a puzzle, and there are different solutions to the puzzle. And as an advocate, you're trying to come up with a solution that lets your client win. But as part of that process, you're also thinking, sometimes that's not the best solution, but you got to pick the solution that lets your client win. And I really am attracted to the idea that I can pick what I think is the best solution based on the law and the facts. In terms of what I think the biggest challenge will be, I'm obviously, adjusting to life as a judge, but, I think the experience of an appellate judge is very similar to the experience of an appellate practitioner. It's sort of a monastic experience. You do a lot of reading, you do a lot of thinking. I love to write. I generally write my own briefs when I can. So I don't think that part of the transition is going to be difficult for me. It'll be very interesting to see with the expansion of the Court of Appeals jurisdiction into civil, what the case flow will be like, and how much time you'll have for an individual case, and that's something that I'm thinking a lot about, and we're working to get the rules right so that it's a seamless transition.
Thank you very much. Mr. Chair, I'll say this, there was a litany of cases that Stuart Raphael has authored. I actually read Bostic versus Rainey within the last couple of weeks, and we want appellate judges to have that writing and appellate experience, and another person with just tremendous experience. And if it's appropriate, I'll have a motion.
Well, Mr. Chairman.
Judge, let me ask you, it's my understanding the Supreme Court has asked you to work on the rules for the Court of Appeals.
Yes, Senator. Chief Justice Lemons put me on the ad hoc committee drafting the amendments to Part 5 and 5A, and he also elevated me to the chair of the Rules Advisory Committee, and today is the deadline for the comments on the proposed rules, and I'm going to be spending a lot of time trying to make sure that those the comments get incorporated into the draft that we're going to send to the advisory committee for review in September.
So you're on top of the improving the rule, or changing the rules?
Yes, sir.
Consistent with that legislation. Any further questions?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Senator Peake.
For a comment. I wish you hadn't asked the candidate about his time on the solicitor and the cases that he won, because I suspect had an opposite opinion on those cases. And I really hate to see us put somebody who's extremely bright and talented, who's going to be opposite my opinions on most things. But in spite of those things and some issues with some of the process, perhaps he's extremely well qualified, and I will vote to affirm him. And obviously, congratulations.
Thank you, Senator.
Yes, Senator Deeds has a motion to certify Stuart A. Raphael as qualified for the Court of Appeals of Virginia. Been moved and seconded. All in favor of the motion, say aye. Aye. All opposed, no. Congratulations, Judge.
Thank you. Thank you very much, everyone.
Judge to be. No, Judge to be. All right, we now move on to the Judicial Inquiry and Review Commission. There are two people we have to deal with. The first is the attorney member, Catherine Dickerson, who's currently pro tempore on the Judicial Inquiry and Review Commission. Is Catherine Dickerson here? Here she is. Chap, I think you know her. Catherine Dickerson, thank you for being here. And just tell us a little bit about your background and why you agreed to be on the JIRC Commission.
Okay, good morning and thank you for your time. I'm Catherine Dickerson. I'm an immigrant. I'm the daughter of immigrants, and I had the benefit of one of the best educations in Fairfax County. I grew up in Fairfax County, and I've been a Southern Belle from Virginia ever since. So I agreed to serve because I think the work is important. We ask humans to be judges. We invest them with a lot of power and discretion. We give them authority to make judgments that affect the lives of our people. And we hold them to a very high standard, as we should. We absolutely should. But at the same time, we should also have oversight, and we should not idolize nor demonize them should they need help. And I think the role of the commission is very important in ensuring that the people who need help and the people who require oversight receive it.
Okay, any further questions, Chap?
Mr. Chair, I'll sort of move this along. I've known Catherine for many years. We've had cases against each other, cases with each other. I think she'd be an outstanding choice.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman.
Any for, Senator Norman.
I apologize. We've had some IT challenges this morning. When were you appointed pro tem to JIRC?
About It was a matter of months ago.
Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, Senator Norwood.
Were you appointed subsequent to the challenge to the then sitting Jerk Commission to delay a hearing until after their terms expired? Were you appointed after that?
I was appointed after Katie Houston became Judge Houston through this committee. I'm not sure exactly when the challenge was filed.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Any further questions of Catherine Dickerson?
Mr. Chair, I'll move to certify.
It's been moved and seconded to certify Catherine N. Dickerson, Esquire, as a member of the Judicial Inquiry and Review Commission. All in favor of the motion, say aye. Aye. All opposed, no. Motion carries. Congratulations to you, and thank you for your service.
Thank you.
The next person for the Judicial Inquiry and Review Commission is a citizen member, Cozy E. Bailey Sr. He's currently a pro tempore appointment. Cozy E. Bailey Sr.
Yes, exactly.
Mr. Bailey, thank you for being here and your service as a pro tempore member of the Judicial Inquiry Review Commission as a citizen member. Tell us about yourself and why you would agree to continue on the Judicial Inquiry Review Commission as a citizen member.
Thank you, Senator. Good morning. I am Reverend Cozy Bailey, senior from Prince William County, Virginia. A little bit about myself. I currently serve the community in a variety of ways in Prince William. I'm the current president of the Prince William NAACP branch there, and I also currently serve as the chair of the Prince William County Police Department's Citizens Advisory Board. I talk about those two things because I think it's germane to the larger area of criminal justice and public safety. I was very honored to begin this service, although we've only had one meeting. But what I think is very important is that the community that I serve there, the people of color in Prince William County community, see a person such as myself, a person of color, who is integrally working with our judicial system, our law enforcement personnel, in order to create a stronger bond of trust. And that's what I think that I've been, in the one meeting, been bringing to the commission so far, and will continue to do that.
Okay, thank you. Any further questions of this distinguished gentleman?
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, Senator Sherrill.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Bailey also neglected to point out he's also a retired member of the United States Marine Corps, and he is an assistant pastor under some guy named Luke Torian.
Luke Torian. I think I've heard of him.
and he's unfortunately in the 36th Senate District, so I have to knock his door every once in a while, but we appreciate him being here today.
Thank you, Senator.
By the way, Semper Fi.
Semper Fi.
Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, Senator Norman.
Sir, you made a comment about some of your community involvement and what you bring to the Judicial Inquiry and Review Commission. Based upon your limited experience so far, or your perspective as a citizen, do you think that there is a lack of trust in the demeanor and integrity of Jerk prior to the most recent appointments?
No.
Thank you. Okay. Any further questions? Is there a motion? Okay. It's been moved and seconded that Reverend Cozy E. Bailey Sr., United States Marines, is certified to and qualified to serve on the Judicial Inquiry and Review Commission as a citizen member. All in favor of the motion say aye. Aye. All opposed, no. Motion carries. Congratulations. And
Thank you, sir.
So very much for your service.
Hoorah.
Okay. Now for the 28th Judicial District, General District Court from Bristol, Smith, and Washington counties, we have R. Lucas Hobbs, Esquire. Step right up here, Judge B. Lucas Hobbs.
Senator Edwards, Delegate O'Quinn, I'd like to
Yeah.
briefly introduce Mr. Hobbs, if that's okay.
Yeah, please do.
All right.
Want him certified? I don't know.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm here to introduce Lucas Hobbs, who is here today because of a vacancy that was created in the 28th Circuit. We had a very unfortunate situation where one of our sitting judges developed a disease that would preclude him from continuing to sit on the bench. He's retired. Very, very sad situation. But our delegation met. Mr. Hobbs was the unanimous choice of our delegation, has a very diverse background of which he can fill you in on. Virginia Tech undergraduate, UVA law, clerked at both the state and federal level. He's practiced in Southwest Virginia for over 2 decades. And so he is eminently qualified and he can make an outstanding judge, and we certainly appreciate your consideration.
Thank you, Delegate, for your introduction. Mr. Hobbs?
Yes, good morning, sir.
So where do you actually live?
I live in Washington County, Virginia, but I have a Bristol address.
Okay, yeah, Bristol's one of those cities that's in 2 states, right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, tell us, why do you want to be a judge?
I want to be a judge because I believe that public service is important. I've been blessed in my life and in my professional career, and I've been able to be active in bar activities and perform service. But I'm very interested in performing public service as a judge and being able to implement the rule of law, which is important. I would say it's vitally important, and particularly in General District Court, where so many of the litigants are unrepresented. It's important that they understand each of them are treated just as fairly as anyone else, perhaps anyone else with or without a lawyer, because many of them, I guess, will be unrepresented, but the other party will have legal representation. So that's important. And as I also reflect back, and of course the General Assembly by statute has said that the matters in the General District Court are to be tried according to both law and equity. And I still remember what, as a young law clerk 23 years ago, late Glenn M. Williams told me on my first, one of my first days of work. He called us into chambers. He said, "Boys, we're here to do justice, and that is what judges are to do, and I want to have a part in that."
When did you clerk for Judge Williams?
1998 and 1999, right after law school.
Okay. And what kind of practice have you had?
I've had a general civil litigation practice for the most part. I was in Roanoke for 3 years at the Woods Rogers firm. After that, I came back to far Southwest Virginia and served as an assistant U.S. attorney for 2 years, prosecuting primarily drug, gun, and some violent crimes in the federal penitentiary. And for the last 16 years, I've had a general civil litigation practice with a bit more transactional work. For the last decade, I've had more of an estate practice, both doing planning, administration, litigation, and as part of that, for the last 6 years, I've served as the City of Bristol's Commissioner of Accounts.
Okay. Any further
Mr.
questions?
Chair,
Yes.
I note in response to question 17 on the questionnaire, you belong to Sabre.
Yes, sir.
I'm interested in how you got started with that work.
So I'm a huge baseball fan, and I have been since 1983 when Johnny Bench retired.
Yeah.
And
so are the Reds your team?
Yes, sir.
Okay. That's enough.
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, Senator Sherrill.
Thank you. I just wanted to say that although I normally don't trust people who spend a lot of time in other people's mouths, Senator Pillion speaks highly of Mr. Hobbs. And I also know Mr. Hobbs overlapped with me 1 year at law school. And I don't ever remember seeing him in any of the parties in my basement. So that's a good thing. So I would second Senator Dee's motion.
Senator Morrissey.
Good morning, Mr.
Good
Hobbs.
morning, sir. How are you?
I'm fine, thanks. And while I'm a baseball fan too, I have another more serious question.
Yes, sir.
For the last 15, 16 years at Elliott Lawson, you've done mostly litigation with less than 1% with criminal work.
Yes, sir.
Which happens to a lot of jurists who go on the bench. Can you tell the panel, the chairman and the members, what, if anything, you've done to prepare yourself, if you go onto the circuit court bench, to handle, which will probably be at least 50% of criminal matters?
Yes, sir. of course, keep up with reading the opinions of the Supreme Court and the Court of Appeals in terms of both civil decisions and criminal decisions. When I became an assistant United States attorney, I came from an exclusively civil practice at that point. And one of the things I did was delve into reading, for example, Fourth Amendment issues. I delved in quite deeply to reading and studying. And as you indicate, less than 1% of my work has been criminal. I'm well aware that the docket is, my guess is more than 50%. Well, combined with criminal and traffic infractions. And so I will do all the studying and everything I need to do to be adequately prepared to apply the law, as we talked about.
One final question, Mr. Chair.
Yeah, Senator Morrissey.
It has sometime been my experience that folks that go on the bench and do not have the criminal jurisprudence experience often default to the Commonwealth because that's all they do. Can you assure this panel that if you're on the circuit court bench that when in doubt, you will not necessarily just default to the Commonwealth?
Absolutely, sir. Every criminal defendant who would come before me is presumed innocent. Okay. And the Commonwealth always bears the burden of proof. Absolutely.
Thank you, Mr. Hobbs. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
Any further questions? Is there a motion? It's been moved and seconded that R. Lucas Hobbs be qualified to serve on the 28th Judicial District, General District Court. All in favor of the motion, say aye. Aye. All opposed, no. Motion carries. Congratulations. I know you'll make a great judge.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate it. Thank you all for your time.
Thank you. The fourth Judicial Circuit from Norfolk, the Honorable Tasha D. Scott. Senator Sproul, would you like to introduce her? Or Delegate Jay Jones, would you like to introduce her, or what?
Well, since he's my godson, I'll let him take the privilege.
She's what?
Not her, Jay.
Mr. Chair, members of the committee, I'd like to introduce you to Judge Tasha Scott, currently a sitting judge on the Norfolk General District Court, and it is our delegation's desire to elevate her to the Norfolk Circuit Court based on the vacancy created by Judge Fulton moving to the Court of Appeals.
Great. Okay.
Sir, also, we used to be concerned about the judge's attitude, how they treat folks. Real nice. She's real nice on the bench. Good report from her. And Louise, and she's a good Baptist too.
Okay, Judge.
Yes, sir.
Tasha D. Scott, tell us a little bit about yourself, your background, and what kind of practice you had before you became a General District Court judge.
Yes, sir. So I was elected by General Assembly to Norfolk General District Court. Started the term there July 1st, 2015. I'm currently the Chief Judge at Norfolk General District Court. Prior to that, right out of law school, I actually practiced at a small firm, Albright and Rhodes in Rockville, Maryland, where we specialize in trial and appellate practice in both civil, corporate, family law, and also immigration law at the time. We relocated back here to Norfolk, where I spent about 10 years prior to going to the bench at the Norfolk City Attorney's Office. Started off my career there in juvenile courts, more so with child in need of services, abuse and neglect cases, termination of parental rights, foster care cases, things of that nature. Also progressed on to real estate transactions, procurement, workers' compensation, development, quite a few things at the City Attorney's Office during my decade there. Also did some administrative appeals for Community Services Board. Also did misdemeanor appeals from General District Court and the JDR courts up to Circuit Court and prosecuted those on behalf of the city in the Circuit Court, and also participated in some 1983 federal civil litigation as a city attorney.
Okay, very well qualified. Any other questions? Well, you got some good people supporting you.
Yes.
And you, I'm sure you know Judge Gerald Jones, a close friend of mine.
Oh,
who I think his son is
your version today.
Mr.
Mr. Chair.
Tell him how for it. Yes, sir.
If a motion is in order, I move to certify Judge Tasha.
It's been moved and seconded that Judge Tasha D. Scott be qualified for the 4th Judicial Circuit in Norfolk. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. Motion carries.
All right, thank you all for your
I
time.
know you make a great circuit court judge.
Yes, sir. Thank you for your time. Appreciate it.
Okay, the Honorable, now, 12th Judicial Circuit, Chesterfield, the Honorable Jane A. Pemberton. Judge Jane A. Pemberton, you're currently a judge in the General District Court, is that right?
In the Juvenile Domestic
Juvenile,
Relations
okay.
Court. Yes, sir.
Why do you want to be elevated to the Circuit Court?
I would love the opportunity to be elevated. I have loved being in the Juvenile Domestic Relations Court. Prior to going on the bench, my practice focused mostly in civil litigation. So I have this background that I have not gotten to utilize as much where I currently am. And I would love the opportunity to be able to do all aspects, both the domestic, the civil, and the criminal and circuit.
Okay, any other questions? Yes, Senator Morrissey.
Good morning, Judge.
Good morning.
First of all, I know it's been a long, arduous, perhaps circuitous process, but I want to thank you for holding yourself out for this position. One of the things that struck me when we first interviewed you was that you highlighted your civil litigation experience before you went on the bench. And then you explained to the panel how you got yourself prepared to handle a J&D docket, which, Mr. Chairman, I think is one of the most difficult dockets in the state of Virginia. Of all the different appellate courts and the general district courts, handling a J&D docket, I think, is very difficult. How can you just briefly explain to the panel how you prepared yourself for getting ready for that particular judiciary spot?
Absolutely. I have to know the why. So I just dug deep. I studied. I read. I have so many files now and that sit beside the bench. I read everything I could. I work hard. I understand and appreciate that I don't know everything, and I will never know everything there is to know. But I work hard, and I will study and learn and do the best job I possibly can.
Okay. Any further questions?
Make a motion, Mr. Chair.
Yeah, Senator Morrissey.
Mr. Chairman, move that Judge Pemberton be certified for a position on the Chesterfield County Circuit Court bench.
It's been moved and seconded that Judge Jane A. Pemberton be certified as qualified for the 12th Judicial Circuit in Chesterfield and Colonial, no, I'm sorry. Yeah, Chesterfield and Colonial Heights.
Yes, sir.
All in favor of that motion, say aye. Aye. All opposed, no. Motion carries. Congratulations, Judge.
Thank you so
I know
much.
You did a great job.
Thank you.
Thank you. So we move on to the 12th Judicial District, General District Court, Chesterfield and Colonial Heights. Curtis M. Harrison, Jr., Esquire.
I like her.
She's in.
I'm sorry.
She's in J&D. Vacant position, Judge Hall.
Curtis R. M. Harrison, Jr.?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, why do you want to be on the General District Court?
The General District Court bench, sir, is where most of our people see the justice system in action. More people have interaction with the General District Court than anywhere else, and that's where they form their impressions of our judicial system and determine whether they think it's fair or not. So that's why I want to be on the General District Court.
Okay. Any questions? Yeah, Senator Morrissey.
Mr. Harrison, I know the answer, but can you tell the panel how many years you had worked as a substitute judge, some of which was in Chesterfield County?
I was a substitute judge from 1995 until 2001, and serving mostly in Chesterfield and the city of Richmond, sitting in both criminal and civil courts during that time.
Follow-up question, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, Senator Morrissey.
For the last decade, you've worked in the G law firm, mostly personal injury litigation. I'll ask you a question I've asked others. What, if anything, have you done to prepare yourself to assume a general district court bench, which will have a great deal of criminal matters that come before you?
One, until just a few years ago, I still maintained some criminal cases so that I would not lose complete touch with criminal law. Until we hired another attorney who specializes in criminal law, I did traffic cases on a regular basis and always did some cases that were pending in the General District Court in the criminal law area.
Thank you, Mr. Harrison. When it's appropriate, Mr. Chairman, I'll have a motion.
Any further questions? I think it was been moved and seconded that Curtis M. Hairston Jr. Be qualified to serve as on the 12th Judicial District, General District Court covering Chesterfield and Colonial Heights. All in favor of the motion, say aye. Aye. All opposed, no. Motion carries unanimously. Congratulations, Judge. I know you make a great judge.
Thank you very much.
Judge Steve.
Thank you.
Okay. The next is, again, Chesterfield and Colonial Heights, Travis R. Williams, Esquire, 12th Judicial District, Juvenile and Domestic Relations District Court. Because he's a lawyer. What makes you an Esquire? Being a lawyer. What makes you being an Esquire? Well, you're not a doctor. Okay. Yeah, okay. Travis R. Williams?
Yes, good morning.
And you're currently a lawyer. Why do you want to be on the JNDR court?
I've practiced a lot on the JDR court. I've sat as a substitute judge there for a number of years, and I feel as though, my experience is something that's going to really benefit the court.
How long have you been practicing law?
27 years.
Okay. Any further questions? Yeah, Senator Morrissey.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Once again, I know the answer to this question, but I think the panel should know. Can you tell the panel how many years you've worked as a substitute judge in Chesterfield County?
For the past 17 years.
And about a third of your practice is domestic relations?
Yes, that's correct.
How much of your practice, it's a two-part question, is related to representing juveniles charged with crimes in the J&D court? And second part is, what have you prepared yourself to do in order to assume the bench and move forward without any slack or without any interruption?
Okay. I've represented juveniles often in both serious and not so serious criminal offenses. And so I've had the ability to represent them as well as serve as a guardian ad litem for those who also are charged. So I think I've had a pretty good experience representing them. And to not have any slack, I'm ready to hit the ground running. I'm going to wind my practice down and just move forward, and looking forward to this.
Thank you, Mr. Williams. Mr. Chairman, it's been similar to the last candidate, it's been a long, arduous, circuitous travels, and I appreciate you, and we all do, for holding yourself out for a position on the J&D bench.
Thank you.
Any further questions? All right, it's been moved and seconded that Travis R. Williams be certified as qualified to serve on the 12th Judicial District Juvenile and Domestic Relations Court, Chesterfield and Colonial Heights. All in favor of that motion, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. Congratulations, Judge to be. You'll be a great judge, I'm sure.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, we have one final 13th Judicial Circuit is Richmond, Virginia, the Honorable Claire G. Cardwell, Circuit Court. Okay, Judge, you're currently in General District Court?
In Richmond, yes, sir.
Yeah, okay. Why do you want to move up to the Circuit Court?
Well, I think that I can be of service in that court. The Circuit Court's primarily a trial court, and I've spent my life as a litigator, my legal life as a litigator. I've been a prosecutor for 8 years, in the middle of my career, a defense attorney for 25 years. And I've also taught advanced trial practice at the law school for more than 25 years. So I have a lot of trial experience.
Where have you taught?
At the University of Richmond Law School.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Any further questions of Judge Claire G. Cardwell, currently in the General District Court, for going to the Circuit Court? Any questions? Yes.
Mr. Chair, I
Senator
move that
McClellan.
this candidate be certified.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded that the Honorable Claire G. Cardwell be certified as qualified to serve on the 13th Judicial Circuit in Richmond. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. Motion carries. Congratulations. I
Thank
know
you
you're
very
a great
much.
judge.
Thank
Thank you
you.
so much.
Thank you.
Okay, that's all we have on the calendar. Is there anything else to be done?
No.
Huh?
No. Thank you.
Shannon, I want to thank the clerk's office and the legislative services, especially Shannon Hurd, for her hard work, and she stayed up all night just about, I believe. And thank you so very much for getting us through. We got through in a record time, I think, and I think we're all in good shape. Thanks. Just give her and the clerk's office a round of applause. With nothing further to do, the meeting's adjourned.